Meeting comes to order. First item is public comment session. I see no one here from the outside, so we will move on to the approval of the minutes. I think everyone has had an opportunity to read the minutes. Are there any questions or requested changes? Hearing none, the minutes are approved as presented. Next item is the vouchers. Once again, everyone has had a chance to look at the vouchers, see the totals. Were there any questions on any of those items, entries? Again, hearing none, vouchers are approved. Now we'll go to the reports for the month of September, and we'll start with financial reports. Dudley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before you, you have the revenue and expense summary for the fiscal year through September. The month of September was another good one. The electric department had net income of $393,000, and the water had a change in net assets of $38,000. Year to date, that puts the electric department $643,000 ahead of the forecast. The big difference, obviously, is we had such a hot, long summer, and our revenue less power cost margin is $456,000 ahead of where I forecasted that. So that's the bulk of that right there. Some of that is timing, and some of it is the fact that our expenses are low. Unfortunately for the water department, the hot weather also had a lot of rain with it this year, so it wasn't dry. So Dan's sales are running a little behind the forecast. But overall, we're only 18 or 8,000 behind the forecast at this time. We do have some expense items in the work orders that are pretty big that are going to hit, but I'm satisfied with where we're at. I mean, it was a good month for both departments. And that's all I've got, unless you get any specific questions.
So, looking at the month of August, and the difference there, the rain was a factor with that.
In the sales, yes.
Okay.
You know,
That's what
We
Well,
speculate that,
right.
you know, it's hard to tell because you're really looking at the operating revenue. You see the difference there. And in the water and sewer department, because it's such a collective small base, a little bit makes a big difference everywhere.
I got the leveler on my pool fixed, and that probably cut the revenue very considerably.
and the industry is picking up on their usage too, so that's a good thing also.
Any more questions? Thank you, Dudley. Now we'll go to the project
We
reports.
need an approval for the reports. We don't need it. If you don't need it, I don't need it.
No, the
That's so
reports
good.
we don't need
Great.
unless there's a change to the reports. As long as they're as presented, then they have to. And we
I'm
only
taking
have-
that word off of there.
We only have two people.
That's
so-
good, good.
At least you got the best looking ones here.
No doubt about that.
Thank you, Charlie.
We'll start with the.
Thank you, Charlie.
Start with the engineering reports.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On the electric department, we have three major projects that we're tracking for you. All three are in your capital outlay. Two of the three you approved last month, and we've just essentially gotten started with those two. The Cross Mountain job is some pretty rough terrain being done by our own forces, Daniel Moody and his crew, and they're doing a fantastic job. West Broad, a very visible project downtown. We're coordinating and working well with the city, and that is just going to be a bear of a project as we go through, and we'll just have to take our time and do it right. And Norris, that's our project that we're going to be working on all year. That is a little over halfway complete now, and we're getting lots of positive feedback and good compliments from the citizenry in Norris. So, and our crews there are doing an doing an outstanding job. I'll be happy to answer any other questions you have.
Any questions?
Nope.
Okay, water and sewer, Dan?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The three projects, the first one at the wastewater treatment plant, that project is completed. Got a few cleanup items, but basically it's completed. That'll move to your closure report next month. Wastewater collection system improvements, we're tracking 4 pump station improvements in the next 2 items. The first item is in Eagle Bend Industrial Park. Those pump stations are on the ground and currently being installed, and even though it looks like on the work order cost, it's not nearly 50%, you're gonna see that hit probably next month, the cost of those pump stations. So we're looking at closure on this project within the next 60 days. And then the next item is, again, pump stations in the Mariner Point subdivision, 2 pump stations, and those have been ordered. And what you see there is what engineering expenses hit the books. So everything's tracking on budget and on schedule.
Okay, very good. Any questions for Dan?
Nope.
Okay, we have one, we have a closing report here also.
It's just pending, so
We're just counting beans still there.
Okay.
doesn't mean.
And one big purchase order. Ernie?
This is for electric department, our standard distribution transformers. Typically 3 to 4 times a year, we will go out for quotations on these units. This time, the quotations encompass 210 units of the varieties that are listed at the top of your sheet. We got 3 bids from manufacturer, suppliers bidding all units. And then, as we always do, we analyze those not only for price, but for the cost of the electrical losses that are associated with the units. Because you can sell a cheap unit that is very high losses, and it might look good in dollars, but it's a terrible idea from an engineering standpoint. So we weigh all that out. And in this particular case, the losses were very similar, so it fell to price. And then we look at, and to use our old phrase, we cherry pick then in order to get the best pricing, since losses are not a factor at that point. And by doing that, we were able to award purchase orders to 3 vendors, all 3 vendors. And the total of the sum of the purchase orders will be $7,649.50 less than a single award to a single vendor. So that would be our recommendation, to award the 3 purchase orders, 1 to each vendor, as we have indicated, the total of the award being $160,216.
That's impressive to me and surprising that you could split them up like that and come out with a lower number than.
The vendors don't like it. They don't like the cherry picking because they would like, obviously,
Yeah.
there's more. But we make them bid by
By
item,
item.
and then we cherry pick. And sometimes it's only $1,500 or $700, but if it's a savings and everything else being equal, times of delivery and things like that, that's why we'll recommend, and that's a $7,600 savings.
Then they all get a pretty
Piece.
good chunk of
Yes.
money.
That's right.
Good.
Okay, is there a motion to approve the purchase order?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the purchase of the transformers. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
This is Dudley.
Dudley going to do
Yes,
the
sir.
tax equivalents?
Okay, this is the tax that we pay all the counties and the cities. And there is a formula, it's a state formula, it's a law, and it sets a maximum that we can pay. They don't care if we pay less, but you can't pay more than the maximum. What we pay is the maximum. We go through this formula. and the formula has two parts, and one part's based on the plant in each area. So you got so much plant in Anderson County, so much in Clinton, Lake City, or Rocky Top, and Oliver Springs, and so forth. So we track those separately, and each one of those is charged, like at your house, you're charged 25%. Your tax is based on 25% of your assessment. Well, ours is based on 55% of the book value, not the assessed value, the book value. So you have that plant's been depreciated. So if we don't put more in that area that year and it depreciates down, it's possible that they could have a little bit less next year, and that's what happens to some of these. The cities get that 55% times their tax rate, whatever their tax rate is. For example, Norris is $2, I think, and then they get that, and there's an equalization ratio that the state does too, which changes that a little bit too. But TVA checks this and makes sure that they agree with my numbers, and they've validated these numbers. The second part of the formula is, you hear me every month talking about revenue less power cost, our margin. That's what we work off of. Well, 4% of that revenue less power cost, on a 3-year average, 4% of it goes to all the counties. But because we're part of the city of Clinton, they get 77.5% of all the counties' tax numbers. That's why you see the city of Clinton gets so much more than even Anderson County, because you would think, well, all the plant that's in Clinton is in Anderson County, and the tax rate of the county is a lot higher than it is in the city, so how could it be more? That's why, because.
Explain that again, run that 77%.
All right, so we take the plant value, all right, calculate the rates. The city of Clinton's 90-something cents and the county's $2 and something. And you come up with this big number of all the counties, and 77.5% of all the counties goes to the city of Clinton. And that is law. That's law. And that's where some of these have trouble with it. They say, how can that be? It's the law. I didn't write the law. you know.
But it's your fault.
You do kind of wonder how that could be.
That's the law. They get 77.5%. So that's why you see the city of Clinton gets $1.698 million.
And the bulk of our plant is in, we got,
The bulk of it's in Anderson County, but
Anderson County.
everything that's in Clinton is in Anderson
Right,
County.
right.
So, but that's just the way the law works. And then 4% of the revenue less power cost on a 3-year average, 4% of that goes into that number to the counties too. So, the good news is the city of Clinton is coming out good on this, especially this year. They're gaining $77,000 in taxes. The county's gaining $22,000 in taxes. Anderson County is. So they come out really good. Everybody else is pretty much breaking even.
What's the reason for the increase, the larger increase, which I know dollar-wise it's not that much, but percentage-wise in the city of Norris?
Because of all the work that we've done recently in Norris and are doing.
Okay.
Relative to, if we're doing all that work and focusing on that one area, we're not.
On
in
that,
some- you know,
on that plant.
We can't
I got
be
you.
everywhere at
Right.
the same
I
time.
got
So
you.
Norris
Okay.
is seeing that now.
Okay.
Right, and a few years ago, it was Oliver Springs got more done. So it just depends on where we're working at the
and we
time.
upgraded our wastewater treatment plant, which is significant. Then Clinton saw, and Anderson County saw a big increase also. But I think, if it's all right with the board, that we make this check out to Rob Harrell. Because he every time that the city gets this, he's always texts me and thanks me for that, and I think he ought to get
Mexico,
some kind of a
the whole
compensation.
winter.
He really does. He does. He always texts, and he's always so nice. I really appreciate it.
It's a pretty complex formula, but I mean, that's the way the law's written. And the because we're part of the city of Clinton, they're the one that gets the biggest benefit.
We've had, over the last year, we've had representatives of some of our taxing districts so angry. We have had multiple emails, multiple meetings, multiple phone conversations. They've talked to TVA, everyone at TVA. They've talked to state representatives. They talked to Congress. I think he's
Talk to our auditors.
talked to the auditors, yeah. Because of the fact that they see an imbalance when they see the city of Clinton. But let's just be clear,
It's
this
Dudley's
is
fault.
it's well, it's Rob's fault. No,
wrote it,
no.
right?
Yes, he didn't like Dudley at all. And
He doesn't look like Rob when he gets that check.
I think like Mr. Trump says, that Dudley doesn't care for him much either. So, the deal is, this is Clinton Utilities Board. Without the city of Clinton, there wouldn't be the Clinton Utilities Board. You say all from day one, the support and what we do in terms of how we grow is through the auspices of the city. So there is I can argue all day why it makes good sense and it's proper and appropriate. And the state obviously sees that too in the design of the formula, where the lion's share goes to the governing government entity. So that's for who's ever listening out there.
So we need a recommendation to city council to approve these.
Do we need a separate motion and approval for that check to be written to Rob Harrell? I mean, can we clarify that?
You have to do
needs
that
be
offline.
separate?
Is there a motion to approve these tax equivalent payments?
I make that motion.
I will second it.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, Dudley, write the checks.
Do you need the address?
Okay, we've got this information a little bit late. I know I didn't get a chance to go over it. I don't know if anyone else did, but Greg is going to tell us what's going on between our water situation with Anderson County Water.
Well, I'll start out by apologizing that you received this under short notice, but this is fluid and it's growing and it moves almost daily. So as I started putting things together for recommendation to you tonight, I felt like although we have been talking about this for months now going on, I thought it would be nice that you have everything in one place. And it's not intermittent and it reads, where there's a flow to the read. So that's why I've tried to be concise with what the issue was, what the factors, and then some background, so you'll have it and this is all within this last, the last year, if you look back over when the first hint that there was a problem with ACWA and the rate. And last year, in June of 2017, that's the first time we heard that there was their intent to increase the wholesale rate between CUB and ACWA by 50% to go from $1 per thousand to $1.50. And as you can see in the background and the notification that we got and my response, we were able to help them see that per the agreement just wasn't going to fly, nor the reason that they gave, because they apparently had just raised the rates at Rocky Top, and then they felt they wanted uniformity in a wholesale rate to external utilities, and they thought that was fair. And that's all we heard, that they thought it was a fair rate. So back and forth, the bottom line is, at the end of the day, they pretty much ended their quest for an increase last year, and that then died. We didn't hear anything for a long time. And then I guess it's about the time that they started their next budget cycle. A good friend of mine, George Horton, got on the board, and we've known George for years and years. He was at NACUD, North Harrison County Utility District. He was manager there, and I think he was on the board at ACWA for a while, got off, and now he's back on. And he came up and talked to me and said, you know, as a new board member, you know, and as he became aware and looked at what's going on, there was a disparity between what was actually the cost of production and delivery of potable water up towards the interstate and the cost of what they were charging us. And there was a gap, you know, in other words, they were losing money, and they felt like their adequacy of providing water, they didn't have the reserves to do that. And in addition to that, you know, they had concerns if there was a fire event, their ability to sustain sufficient water, there was a concern. There was a concern. So that got us into what I considered realistic discussions on what we could do as one utility to another, even though that this contract is in force until January of 2020. So in those discussions, and once we identified what I thought that their problems were, they agreed to be forthcoming with what their actual costs were. We studied some of that. We got information from them. Our consultants got it. Dan got it, and Dudley and his team went through it in order to determine, get a comfortability that we all agreed that there was a cost disparity between what it costs them to produce and what they were selling it to us. And we believe that there is. And in addition, because we wanted a more global master plan for how to serve the north end of the county, and most specifically for us, the I-75 Industrial Park, and the potential of growth on either side of the 4-lane, which we see is a real possibility for the city in annexation. And we don't have water on the other side of the bridge. So I made it clear to them this past summer that our intention was to build a water main up to serve the north end interstate area and I-75, everything in the city. I wanted to have the infrastructure in play in order to make sure that there was consistency in rates and supply to our customers, especially as the growth, as it continued to grow. Well, ACWA, seeing that they were in a situation where supply was diminishing and growth was increasing, they started their own engineering process, which is the preliminary for grants, to do an engineering study to show the need, and that goes part of the application for the grant process. I was a little put out because I told them that was our intention to do that. While I understand that they need to cover their bases, you know, there was no interaction on that. So they had their preliminary report, engineering report, already finished and ready to go, and those are to be handed in next month. That's the way the process starts. So all of that is, they asked for $1.70, which represents $1.50 plus 10%, 10 cents for depreciation and 10 cents for transportation. So it's total $1.70 per thousand. I told them that couldn't happen, and it couldn't happen this year because we need to study the impact it has on how we can recoup on our system, and with a valid contract. And again, through this process, as you remember, I've asked the board and told the board, you know, give me the authority to continue this negotiation. So what I come to you tonight was what we have agreed on in principle, and I had meetings with the county mayor because she was instrumental in this grant process, and I'm telling you, she's a delight to get along with. She's very supportive. I think she was very instrumental in making sure that all sides were heard. And she now fully supports withdrawing, along with ACWA, this application for ARC grant. They have agreed in principle to not look for a rate increase until July of next year, which gets us into our next budget year. Won't be $1.70, it'll be $1.40. And then in January of 2020, it'll go to $1.50, not $1.70.
Is
And
the
then-
140 it, or is there the 10 cent?
No,
transfer?
it's 140 total. It's 140 total. In addition, because that doesn't solve the supply or the fire protection issue, that we have got sufficient capacity in our treatment plant. There's a 6-inch line that they can connect to, that we can connect with ACWA. It takes a booster station because their pressures are different. So in order to supply them at the same pressure as their system, it'll take a booster station, and that's a couple $100,000 that they will put in place all at their cost. I've offered our property that, because we're in a fence and we've got lighting out there for this temporary facility, that they could put it down where our water plant is. We'll pipe over to them between 200,000 and 400,000 gallons a day, and that they can shoot up because they've got a 6-inch line going to the interstate. So that will help offset their concerns for supply. It'll meet their short-term loss for supply, and it'll give us a chance to build water mains, either 8 or 12-inch, up to the interstate, or I-75 areas most specifically, that'll serve our industry now and in the future, and serve the corridor now and in the future with water. And I don't know, at the end of the day, that ACUB and they'll, in their master plan, determine whether would be cheaper to buy water from us or not. So what we'll have is all of the water that we pay for, because we pay for everything on that north end of from the bridge on, all of that will go to $1.40 in July of next year. Then $1.50 the following January. All of the water that we sell them on with this booster station being put in, will sell at $1.40 in July of next year, and $1.50. So it'll all be bilateral and reciprocal, or whatever nice word you want to use. They will immediately withdraw their pursuit of the ARC grant, because Terry Bobrowski, who runs that, says there's no way we're going to get 2 competing utilities. Nobody's going to get anything, you know. You'll have to work that out. And then we've got a short-term fix, and the long-term fix is our water for our customers up at the I-75 Industrial Park. Now, we're looking at an ARC grant, and that's 50-50, but that's about for $500,000. There's also state money if we were able to snag an industry, or if there's a substantial expansion. We're going to look for all the money. I told our guys if they can get a music scholarship at Carson Newman to go ahead and get that money, and we'll sing for them. So we'll do everything we can to minimize the cost of what it's going to take us to put water up there, but realizing we're going to put it up there irrespective of the cost.
Yeah, we have to put the.
That's
Will
what
we
we
both
think.
have water mains going up to the interstate?
Well, they already do,
know,
but
so-
then that's not a bad thing for either one of us, because ideally, it doesn't matter what you sell each other, as if there's parity, because it serves both of our interests to have an interconnection for a major.
backup.
As a backup, that's right, and we've had very positive and productive discussions and conversations, as you would think two utilities that are serving the public should have. What is the best for the public? And what's best for the public is you've got two utilities working together without redundancy, serving at the lowest possible cost, for everybody. So that's what I'm recommending that we do. I think it's fair to ACWA, and I think it's fair to CUB, and it gives them, I think, a more equitable rate starting in July of 2019.
Would you need approval of anything now, or wait until the final agreement is?
Well, what our plan is as much as we can, since if they send us a rate in July and we do not contest, we just pay it. When you look at what we make, because part of this, and with Mayor Frank, I told him, I don't want to spend $25,000 on attorney's fees. Do you see? The agreement that we have will die a natural death in a year and a half anyway.
Right.
And let them charge us the rate that we will agree on. I mean, we'll do an MOU so everybody understands, and let them charge them. We will not disagree with the $1.40, and we won't disagree with the $1.50, and they'll go the same way. And then we're just good to go. Then we'll do a very loose inter-utility agreement on wholesale, reciprocal bilateral agreement without.
Does that have to go in our rate structure anywhere?
No. What I'll do between now and July is look at how we bill, because right now, we're a little bit of a dinosaur on this high-end water rate. The more you use, the less you pay. Well, I don't know that that's the way I'm going to be recommending that we might have a fixed rate. So the higher you use, you pay the same thing down here as you pay at $20,000, as you pay at $300,000. I don't know if you ought to have that kind of reduction, because the cost, especially our costs, are now going to be higher. So when we get to this industrial level of rates, what I see myself doing is doing a full rate schedule for you all to look at for July 1 of 2019, which is when this goes into effect, and because I want to make sure that our costs are recovered for what we're selling the product for, because we'll get in the situation where it's costing us more every gallon we sell, we're losing money. It's not going to work out well. I think we're going to net pretty close out if they buy what they say they're going to buy and what we are currently buying. I'm thinking we're going to net out pretty close push. But that's part of what I'm going to study. And I am going to, where I don't think it's going to affect our residential customers one iota. But I think some of these higher end users, which are costing us more to serve and boost the pressures, we've already met with Isham, and telling them that our plans are, because their pressures right now are much higher under ACWA, because they've got to run a high pressure to push that water. When we have that, it'll be at a lower pressure. And how is that going to affect their facility? Because I think they count on the higher pressures in order to meet some of their fire protection, goals. So they've already given us a clear green light. We're good with this, So all of those things are falling into place, and I think we've covered every base. We certainly protected Cub, and we've taken the threat of their grant application off the table. We've taken any threat of a I want money this year off the table, and we've reduced to a fair amount, I think a fair amount, of what the cost of water, of what it costs them and what they should be charging us.
I think the grant application is a big item.
It's a key.
because we really need to have the
Right.
control of the water going up.
That's right. And not only are they withdrawing, the mayor is going to actively support, so I think it's all a good thing. And again, all parties, are very happy with where we eventually wound up
So ACWA is in total agreement with all of this.
already.
And so there'll be a new agreement that will be written up. We're not just gonna,
Well, the agreement that we have, it's gonna stay in play, but we're not gonna resist.
but in July, when that time comes around, I mean, how do we know they're not gonna bill us 170 when we,
Because I still have an agreement.
well, I know,
Yeah.
that's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
Do we have it in writing?
We will have this, we will have what we recommend here and what I'm gonna ask is you approve this in concept, in theory, so I can tell them we're all good to go. And then we'll make whatever we have to have, in writing to satisfy both parties, we'll get all of that, which will be nothing different than what we have here.
Right.
Because I'm not releasing the other contract.
Okay,
So there's no way we're losing anything.
okay.
The other contract expires when?
It expires 12/31/2020.
2020. But will they have the booster in place
Yes.
by July, when our rate's gonna go up?
Well, it's their intent because the summer is that's their biggest threat, is that time, that's when they're really in better shape now in the winter, because their demands are down.
Right.
But as the summer comes in, that's when they're most exposed. So they're gonna work on
Ideally,
that
that
right
booster's
away.
gonna be in place in July, so when our rate goes up, then we can start to charge them for the water that we're gonna
That's correct,
provide them.
but
So it's gonna
But
be a
I
wash.
also speculate that I'll be giving you a different rate structure for these high-end users in that July frame.
So as of right now, you really don't need anything formal from the board?
No, other than the fact that y'all are fine with us moving forward just like we are, just like I'm recommending that we do.
Does anyone have any issue with this?
No, I think it's a good idea. I had a question, just curiosity. What area does ACWA cover?
Everything in the county but what Oak Ridge covers and what we cover and First Utility District down in Powell area. But everywhere there's potable water, public water is ACWA.
Okay, I just wasn't sure where they were.
And so we have the narrow strip along the,
We've got the corridor that the city owns.
but back
but-
behind it, they have, that's theirs?
But yes, that's their service area. Our service area is anywhere where the city is. So what I want to do is three things. Fire protection, although we're not in the fire protection business, I think there's gonna need a storage tank up at the park. That's what I think, and we'll work with the city on that, because
There's
that's,
one down at the mill, you could move that.
that's,
Just move that over, Mary, just move it on over.
that's a good point. I'll bring it up. But we're gonna have to
Somebody pay
get,
you to say that?
we'll have to get with the city on that, because originally back in Cannon, when I-75 went in, their design was that there'd be a storage facility, water. So then it's whether you want it potable water or whether you want just fire. I mean, that's a decision and it's a cost difference on how to do it. Just throw water up there, or do you have to keep that water going like that to keep it fresh? You say, all those decisions will be made. So fire protection and water storage is an issue that I want to make sure is fully addressed. Supply. Can we pump enough up there in volume and pressure in order to meet everybody's needs? And that'll have to be done. And then number two is protecting the ratepayer and the rates, because if we don't have our own water and no way to put it out there in any timely time, and we don't have an agreement, then we're at the mercy of something that we don't have control over, which is not a place that I like to be. So that's our intent to do that, because the growth of Clinton is up that 4-lane and to that interstate. That was a vision that the city saw years ago, and in that annexation did the wise thing that's only going to push out. As we look at, and we have, and I've talked to developers, there is development on both sides of that corridor up there. So then who serves that? You see,
If it's the city,
we are a third less in some of the costs, you know, I mean, it is to the benefit of the citizens for us to serve, you know, in my opinion, just because of our rates, if nothing else. So we can't do it unless we got the infrastructure in the ground to do it. The reason that we have I-75 Industrial Park is because of Clinton Utilities Board is having sewer, you see. So when we pushed that line all the way up there, that force main all the way up there, and that allowed for the growth up there, and we're benefiting from that right now. Pushing this water line, and it may be $2 million before it's over, that is going to be essential for the future growth of Clinton, and we would have to do it sooner or later.
so have we started the application process for the grant?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
We'll have the preliminary report, we should have something hopefully by Thanksgiving. And what I'll do is we'll go over that and make sure it reflects what we see is all the key factors that make good sense. And then we'll submit that. Then probably in January, they'll look at all of these preliminaries, and then they'll pick out a few that will want you to go through a full-scale engineering of the project. And then probably in June or July or August, they'll award. And then we'll be right on to digging and laying line.
I assume you or Zach have let the city know and everything that's going on, or our plans for what's gonna go on? Are they aware of all that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and you know, we're all working really together on that. I mean, a big interest of the city is fire, you know. They're even talking about putting a station up there, you know. The individual industries always have the option of putting some type of a bladder on their property that is specific for fire containment, you know, and the facilities that they have and all of that. I mean, the end result is it's their responsibility, you know, but there's an expectation when you see a hydrant out next on the road that all good things are gonna come out of that, you know, in sufficient quantity and time and volume and pressures.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, one last question. In the county of Anderson, as far as water goes, there's CUB, there's CWA, and whatever's in Powell,
and Oak Ridge.
and whatever's in Oak Ridge. So we have 4 water.
And well, no, you look at Lake
Norris.
City, you know, you look at, in small municipals, you're contained in Lake City like you are in Oak Ridge, and you've got Oliver Springs, you know, what part of that is in Anderson County, Norris, and Lake City.
Okay,
We also have Paulsdale Powell. and
Right.
part of it, too.
okay, I just wondered how many of us are around?
A lot. I mean, there's a lot. And we are half or a third of what in their terms of rates for any of them.
Okay,
What determines the boundaries of who serves?
Well, for municipals, it's the
Like,
city.
we go outside of Clinton, though, don't we?
Only because we took over First Utility District, which was in South Clinton and Claxton, you know, which that we could turn that clock back.
why did we do that? Just, why did we do that?
We'll have to get offline for me to tell you that. You know, golly bum. So, yes, that's why electric, we're in all these counties, which is different. Water and sewer in the sixties was under the auspices of the city. And then they said, oh, well, we were just Clinton Power Commission then. And then let's not get into water and sewer. It is nothing more than a service to your residents. And that's why it was always municipal to begin with, because in the county, you had field lines and you had wells. Do you see? So the reason you're paying property tax in the city is to get these facilities, you know, and then it houses everybody close together. Well, the city of Clinton saw that they didn't want to be in the water and sewer business. That got it to us. And then when the city annexed South Clinton, and that was back in the 70s, 82 or 3 or something like that. That's when we picked up Claxton, and then I'm telling you, that stuff was run with a garden hose, you know, so. But it's in great shape now.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is. Pine Meadows was a package plant that when it rained, it would float, you know. I mean, it was just it was not a good thing. But it's all good now. It's all good now.
And our
Millions
electricity
millions of dollars on
it's
that.
just a different area than our water.
That's right.
TVA set up the boundaries for electricity.
Yes, we have, and we have service areas in that, and we work really well with the utilities that we buffer, because when you come into an area that is not served, and there are places in the counties where this county stops here, and this utility stops here, and this utility stops here, and then Joe wants to put a house right in the middle, then who serves that? We worked with Plateau. They built a school up there that served their community, that was on the back end of our service area, you see. So it was really within our service area, but it was a school that was in their community, and they wanted their utility to serve their community school, and we let them, you know, because it just, we both would have had to build a power line to get to it. And they asked if they could be the ones, and so yeah, we work really easy with them. In Oak Ridge, they annexed Real Heights up towards, if you know where that is. When that came into their city area, then we were serving that. They wanted to serve it, and what we had to have back is the cost of what we had, our infrastructure that was in there, which we did, but we worked with them on doing that. Not all utilities work really well together. There are some, out in Middle Tennessee, they had a big fight out there between two utilities. We don't have any problem with Plateau, with La Follette, you know, with the Powell Valley, with Lenore City, or KUB, or Oak Ridge, or Harriman. Well, we've got Rockwood, you know, KUB serves Halls, but yeah, we work on this area. Everybody gets along with everybody else, and we should get along with Hallsdale Powell, and with Lake City, and with Norris, and with ACWA on water. Anything that we can do to help them, we ought to be doing, in my opinion. So thank you. I'm going to carry on, and I'm going to tell them that this board is on board in principle with what we've got, and we're good to go, and that we're all green lights the way I see it.
Anything else?
I do just quick stuff, though, quick stuff. More information than anything else. Christmas lunch. It's Tuesday, December the 4th. Do I have that? Does that sound right to you? Good. So if your schedule permits, we'd love for you, and I think our employees would love to see you. And we're inviting some of our friends from the city too, and some that we don't like are not getting an invitation. But you try to, if you can, if your schedule permits, please come. We'd love to have you. The other thing is, as you know, I chair Anderson County Economic Development Association, and by CUB's contribution to ACETA, we have a certain number of board members that we can put on there. And Jerry Shattuck is one, and Bob Jameson is one, and Joe Rainey has been one. And of course, I'm on there. And the city has some that they put on, and Oak Ridge does, and that, you know, all the entities, and the county has the bulk because they put in the most money. But Joe Rainey, who is a dear friend, and a tireless servant for economic development, has been a member since it started back in the 60s. I mean, Jerry Shattuck's the only other one that comes close to it, and Joe wants to retire off of that board. And Pam Rainey, his wife, worked at ACETA when it was Melton Hill. I mean, she worked many, many years. She is astute. She's intelligent. She is a visionary, and she's very qualified. What I would like to do without unless the board objects, it's my intention to invite Pam on to the CETA board to take Joe's place. I've talked with Tim Thompson, who is the president down there, and he's in full agreement. They get along really well. I can't honestly think of anyone that would do a better job for economic development in the county than Pam Rainey. So unless the board objects, that's what my plan is. So let me know if you think we need to rethink that.
I fully support that idea.
That'd be a good choice.
Great, well then that's what I'm gonna do. Salary surveys are in from TVPPA, it's in an Excel web, so I don't know how great you are with Excel, but here's we're gonna try to print hard copy, and I'll PDF that, so you'll get something that you can look at, but I also am just gonna send you the Excel file, that way you can play with it any way you want. We also, for $75, was it $75? $75, we got the 2018 APPA, this is Public Power, salary survey report. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take the staples out of this and PDF it, and then give you this too, so you'll get both of them. And we'll try to do that within the next couple of weeks, so you'll have
That's great. Appreciate that.
December to just have a great time with that. So,
Sit by the fire and have a,
that's right. What shall we do? Well, let's see if we can't sort this way. And I'll try to give you some, because this spreadsheet, this is a much better, easier read. The spreadsheets is the spreadsheet, so I'm going to try to give you some thoughts on how to work that thing, so you won't go, oh gosh, it's just a bunch of numbers, because that's essentially what it looks like. Audits are done and in through our auditors, and we've got those copies. We'll give them out, but I didn't want to give them out to you until they had an opportunity to come, so I let them present it. And they'll be here next month, as far as we know. It shouldn't take long, but I can.
I don't have the hard copies, but I'll post
Right.
on your iPad the audits. I don't have those yet.
Well, we'll have them next time. Right?
Yes, well-
So, I mean, they'll get their audits on their board pack, right?
Right.
So, good. I'll just tell you up front, we know that they're clean and there's no anything, so we're all good to go. If,
It's exactly what you've seen in your
yeah,
June
which is what we
statements.
want. And just, as you know, and I sent this out to you because I was really proud, we looked at it. Dudley was the first to see it, and I don't know, Ernie tracked it really hard. Our recent storm, we weathered that really well.
that was a good email you sent.
And it's just nice because it's something you can drop, which I thought was good.
I looked at our outage map to try to find the two people, but
Well, they weren't in KUB because we serve in Knoxville. They weren't in Knoxville, But we did release all of our crews, all of our contract crews, we released to go help KUB get their power back on. And I just wanted to say, you know, we, over $58,000 we saved in on-peak reductions this last month. So, I mean, that's an every month thing, and it's just nice to remind you that that's really good stuff. So that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Why did our, the backup data only have the month of October on it? For the, you know, warm days, cold days? Usually has,
Because you're going from, cooling degree days to heating degree days.
okay, so that was the change.
So it's a whole different formula
Okay.
now. So in the summertime, you've got those cooling degree days, and that's what impacts. But once you hit October,
You got transition,
then
what they
it
call
goes to the
transition.
heating days. So that's why it's that way.
Okay, anything else? Penny?
I was gonna say, I appreciate everything that you all have done for the power outages this week. The fact that we just had 2 customers and KUB was sitting over there panicking. I mean, I saw so many posts on Facebook of, families that were, you know, trying to grab something to eat at Cracker Barrel or Hardee's before they had to take their kids to school, and even talked to some people, what was that on Tuesday, later in the day, that still didn't have power at their house. And the fact that we had 2, I mean, that's just really impressive, and that's just because we have good leadership and good teams out there that are doing what we expect them to do to provide for our community.
Keep those lines cleared.
And the
That's
fact
right.
that we released our contract crews to go help KUB, just thank you for everything that you all do.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I just wanted to reiterate what Penny said. It's just nice to be part of a team like this, and we're just the board. You all are the brains and the feet and the hands behind all that. But, you know, to read in the paper and hear in the news that Knoxville and surrounding people are having such trouble, and we're not. That's a compliment to our leadership team and our workers, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well,
Okay,
pizza will be here in 15 minutes.
appreciate it.